finale session of Masterclass with Mentors. I am Akanksha and with me is Aditi. And today we have a very special guest. And unfortunately, we don't have the sort of a very loud music in the background like Game of Thrones or something like that, which sets the tone for the finale. But it is going to be nothing less than that. And I have assured you always of a great show, and it is going to be a great show today as well. So today, most of you must have seen who our guest is, and we're so excited to have Ankur with us today. So thank you very much, Ankur, first of all, for agreeing to do this final session with us and sharing your thoughts and processes with us. So it's a pleasure to have you. And just to everybody, whoever doesn't know Ankur or wants to get to know Ankur, I'll tell you a little bit about Ankur Wareku to you. So he's a graduate in physics and MBA from ISB. And he has been part of some of the biggest internet startups that India has seen till date since 2008. So that's long 12 years in the internet industry. So while, most of us were still studying in schools and colleges, he was out there bringing up companies like Gaadi.com, SecondShadi.com, and very recently Nearby and the likes of many more. And I'm sure, Ankur, there'll be a lot more coming out of your kitty very soon, we can see. But over to you, Ankur. Let's get started because I'm sure people are very excited to hear you speak instead of me and Aditi. So we'll get you going.
Thank you, Akanksha. Thank you, Aditi, for having me. It's a pleasure to be amongst all of you. I hope all of you are doing safe and are enjoying the weekend. I don't want to say the lockdown because that begins to imply so many other things. It's wonderful to be spending time with you. I quite like the subject of the conversation today, which is how do you really create a sustainable business that, particularly in this environment, is a big question mark on a lot of people. Whether you're a founder, whether you're thinking of starting up, whether you are in the early stages of starting your own idea, whatever is it, these are times which are very uncertain, that are not very stable, not very predictable, and a lot can happen in a very short period of time. So if there is a framework or there is a process through which you can figure out how to navigate through this journey, then that is always helpful. So here's what we will do. It's 4:03 by my clock. We're scheduled to speak for about 60 minutes. I'll take about 10-15 minutes. I'll walk you through what I think should be one of the ways that you can consider thinking about building your own startup during these times. But what I would love is questions coming my way. If those questions are applicable to the topic, great. Even if they're slightly outside of the topic, that's totally okay as well. Anything that has to do with entrepreneurship, anything that has to do with startups, just shoot them my way. And between Aditi, Akanksha, and myself, we will come up with something that hopefully addresses your concern or your question. And that's how we will take it. We'll make it a free-flowing conversation. So let me start with my 2 bits on what's happening. There are essentially 3 questions that have been asked in the last 3 months, time and again. One question is, which are the industries that will boom because of COVID or Corona or anything that's happening around the pandemic? And which are the industries which will not? Number 2, is this a good time to start up at all? Because there's just so much uncertainty around us. So one should even think of starting up, or if one is in a job, then is it better or safer to be in that job and think of starting up at some point else? And number 3 is, I'm already in a startup. My business has taken a deep hit because of the pandemic, because of the lockdown. How should I think about this business? And these are essentially the 3 big questions that in some shape and form have been hit in the last 3 months or so, time and again. So let me address these 3 questions because that will be the segue towards any question that you may have in any form. So the first one, which is, which are the industries that are likely to be hit, which are the industries that are likely to boom, because that gives some mental clarity on where can I be focusing on and where not. So clearly there are some obvious trends that are happening, and we're beginning to see that at all. Content in the form of entertainment, content in the form of education, content in the form of information, content even in the form of association or networking, rocking. It will explode. It will become even more than what it is. More and more people are spending time on TikTok and on Instagram and on Facebook and on WhatsApp and everywhere else, and that's only going to get bigger. More and more people are spending time on Netflix and on Amazon Prime and Z5 and Hotstar, and it's only going to get bigger. More and more people are spending time on Byju's and Academy and so on and so forth. It's only going to get bigger. So any place which is delivering information, content, entertainment, association, connections virtually is a great space to be. And that is one of the industries that will boom. But when you start answering this way, it almost seems like either I know the list or I don't know the list. So I personally don't like this approach, because this is a very answers driven approach, which is, hey, which are the industries that are going to boom, Ankur? And I give you the answer and you take them and you leave. It's almost as if I know everything. But the truth is I know nothing. And you in your own capacity know nothing. And individually, none of us know anything. So there is a framework or a mental model that helps. And here is a framework or a mental model that can help you. I call it the TMT model, or the time, money, trust model. Here's how it works. Think of every industry or every consumer as an intersection of how they think about time, how they think about money, and how they think about trust. And you don't have to be very complicated about it. You can simply say either the consumer has time or not have time, has money, not has money, is trustworthy or is trust willing or not trust willing. And when you look at a country like India, you would argue, by and large, on an average, we have a lot more time on our hands, we don't have a lot of money, and we don't trust people easily. We have a lot of time on our hands, we don't have a lot of money, we don't trust people easily. So we are a time-rich, money-poor, trust-poor country. A time-rich, money-poor, trust-poor country. When you look at something like the Americas, or UK, or Singapore, or Australia, developed economies, you'll see that they don't have a lot of time on their hands. They're constantly busy, running amongst themselves, doing whatever they have to do. They have a lot more money, and they're also very trustworthy. They trust people easily, they trust the judiciary, they trust the systems, they trust the legal system, so on. So they are a time-poor, money-rich, trust-rich economy. Now, why does this matter? This matters because it instantly explains how economic decisions are made in this country. If we are a time-rich, money-poor, trust-poor country, we're going to spend our attention on businesses which cater to this. So it is not a surprise that something like a Netflix or an Amazon Prime or a Hotstar will explode, because it caters to people who have a lot of time. It caters to people who don't have a lot of money, because in just one price you can get the entire assortment. ऐसा नहीं है कि एक मूवी और एक सीरीज और एक feature खरीदना पड़ता है. You literally get one full month every month for the entire database, and you can choose whatever you want to see. So you can trust whosoever you want to. You trust Gangs of Wasseypur, so you will see that. You trust Amitabh Bachchan, you will see that. You trust Patal Lok, you will see that. You trust Game of Thrones, you will see that. You can choose whatever you want. You get to trust whatever you want. And that's why it's exploding. And in a crisis, the question to ask, we are all in a lockdown, which of these three things are magnifying and in what direction? So because of the lockdown, we have a lot more time than we did. We have a lot less money than we did. and we are not trusting people at all. I don't trust anyone coming home. I don't trust touching anything. I don't trust eating out, all of those. So if you now begin to see which industries lie at the intersection of these three, it suddenly gives you a framework to determine which industry is going to work or not. Example, is the dining out or the restaurant industry going to explode or not? Because that's something that I do closely at Nearby. It requires people to have time. So good, we have a lot of time. It requires people to have money, and we don't have money. It requires people to have trust, and we definitely wouldn't trust when we're going to a restaurant. We may trust who's sitting next to us, but we definitely will not trust कि kitchen में क्या हो रहा है, कौन हमारा खाना बना रहा है, कौन उसको हाथ लगा रहा है, वो खाना कहाँ से आया है, so on and so forth. So it's very obvious that even when this lockdown is over, we are not going to see the dining out or the restaurant industry come back. It's going to now change, and in meaningful, very material ways. When you look at education delivered online, and that too, not by some random Ankur Wariku who's some person who's created a course, but now education is being delivered by Kapil Dev, Virat Kohli, Amitabh Bachchan, Shah Rukh Khan, like people who, by the way, have nothing to do with education, but they're just as brand ambassadors, as celebrities, giving out that. It's catering to people who have time. Great. It doesn't require physical infrastructure, so it's actually really cheap. You create a course and you can sell it for peanuts because you can sell it to millions of people, and you can generate trust by virtue of who is giving out that course. And for me, it's very simple that online education is going to explode in this crisis. So that TMT model, or the time, money, trust model, is a great way for you to determine whether a particular industry is going to be positively or negatively affected because of the pandemic or the lockdown. The second question, should I start up at all during this time? I have a counterintuitive view on this. And the counterintuitive view is, a lot of people are saying you should not start up. My view is you should start up. My view is that this is actually the best time to start, because there will be very less competition. The market will be actually really hard to crack. So you, if are able to crack the market, you can survive in any other business, any other circumstance in the future. And it will not require a lot of money to start right now, depending on the business, give or take. Because you will get people for relatively lesser. You will be able to do marketing for relatively lesser. You'll be able to get the attention of people for relatively lesser. It's actually a good time to start. But you got to be patient. If you're starting right now, it means that the time it will take for you to get the business to stability will be a lot longer than usual. But you will have a head start against most other people because they didn't even start. And you are the one who did that. The third question, which is, I'm running a startup right now. How should I think about this lockdown, this pandemic, and go about navigating that? The only advice that I give to startups right now, so there are some businesses which are positively affected because of COVID and pandemic. So there is no conversation around that. It's like, do whatever you have to do. You are on a good trajectory. God bless you. Everything is going your way. But a lot of businesses are affected, and affected negatively. There, my only advice is, don't think of growth. Think of survival. Don't think of growth. Just be brutally obsessed with survival. You have to survive this period. This period is temporary. It will at some point of time end. The world will come back to normal, but you have to survive until then. And the only way that you survive until then is to be laser focused on survival and not growing. I was speaking to an entrepreneur yesterday and I gave him the same advice. I said, stop focusing on growth. Stop spending money on acquiring new customers. Stop spending money on branding. Only and only focus on your current customers and on repeat business. And do whatever you can to just focus there. If you are in a spot where you're losing business, your only goal and objective is to maintain the business and don't let it slip further. Reimagine your costs, renegotiate your rents, renegotiate all your vendor payments, renegotiate all your payables. If you can, request for people to take pay cuts. Give them that amount later on. But do whatever you can to conserve your cash, because that is the only way that you're going to survive this pandemic and this process. Otherwise, if you think that you should still be growing, you should still be making things happen and getting branding and getting your visibility and getting new customers every month and so on, it's going to take your money. You wouldn't even know when it's over. And then the next thing you know is you don't even have money to survive. And pandemic or no pandemic, you'll be dead. And you don't want that. You absolutely don't want that. So the only thing that matters right now is survival. The one investment that you can make is around content. But it's not going to help you right now. So only make the investment if you have the luxury of money to make that investment. If you don't have it, don't make it. But if you do have the luxury of money, make the investment in content. You could be a bags manufacturer. I'm just picking up something random. You are a fashion e-commerce company. You make bags and belts and wallets. And clearly, no one cares about buying bags and belts and wallets right now. So you're seeing a drop in your revenue. You're seeing a drop in your sales. But you can create good quality content. You can create content which is around how are these bags made? What is so good about these bags? How are these wallets made? What is so good about those wallets? What are the different types of wallets? What are the different types of bags? When do you pick one bag against the other? What is the right bag to choose for the right occasion? How do you match your belts? Does the belt match with the shirt or the pant or with the outfit? What are the different types of buckles? There's just so much that we don't know as consumers that you can genuinely spend effort on and create a brand that has some connection with the consumer, so that when things are normal, the consumer remembers you as the brand that helped them at some level during the lockdown, the pandemic. And that is the way that you should think about it. And there are several examples, and I'm happy to take more and more. But the only investment that I would suggest you make if you have the luxury of money is content. And don't think it's going to reap any benefits immediately, but it's the best long-term game. And trust me, there is no better time to start making content than when you have nothing to do. And if you have nothing to do right now and your business is waiting to get started again, make the content. Make the content. Put it up on TikTok, put it up on LinkedIn, put it up on Instagram, put it up on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever your audience is in the form and shape that you want, but essentially invest in that long form content. So that will be the very quick and dirty summary of how I think one should navigate through this lockdown period, this pandemic. At a broader level, keep telling yourself, whatever is it that we are going through right now, all of us collectively, it shall be over. The virus may not be over. For that matter, we're going to live with this virus now for ever and ever. But there will be a vaccine at some point of time. There will be a dip in the numbers at some point of time. We will start to learn how to live with this virus. But what we're going through economically of depressed sales, of depressed growth, all of that is going to come back. It's an eventuality. So don't let the current circumstance get the better of you. Don't let that demotivate you, because this is temporary and this too shall pass. What you need to focus on is how can I prepare myself in the best way to be the business ready for the new tomorrow. And that is a tough question to answer, especially if your industry has been badly hit. If you're someone in the travel industry, in the hospitality industry, in the transportation industry, all of these are badly hit. And you have to reimagine how that business would be. And that is where you should be spending your effort instead of feeling dejected that the current months are not giving you the sales that you thought you would want to get. Because that's short term and that's never going to help. It's never going to be the reason why you feel hope or you feel motivation as an entrepreneur. I'll stop here, take a few questions if there are, and then get back.
I think we have about 3 questions which have come in already. And the first one which came in was by Rahul. And Rahul was asking that how important is it to have a full time co founder for growth of your startup?
How important is it to have a full-time co-founder for the growth of your startup?
Yes.
Okay. And Rahul was the one who asked this question?
Yes, Rahul Patil.
Okay. So, Rahul, I actually have a view where I don't even think that growth is something that is co-founder material. For me, there are only 2 reasons why one should become a co-founder. One, the individual brings in skills that are absolutely critical for the existence of the company. Not the growth of the company, not the future of the company, the existence of the company. Which could mean the co-founder in a tech startup is the one with the tech capability. In a sales startup is the one with the sales ability. In a marketing startup is the one with the marketing ability. Or you know what? The co-founder could just be the one who comes with the money, and the money is immensely critical to the startup when it is. Or number 2 is you have a co-founder who you just want to start up with. Maybe he or she is a friend, a relative, someone that you just always wanted to start up with. There's no rational reason why you should pick her or him, but you just do that. Beyond that, I would not make anyone a co-founder. I could give them a very senior title, but I would not make them a co-founder. And for me, growth in any startup is not critical. It's necessary, but it's not critical for survival. It's not critical for existence. It is necessary for the future. And at some point of time, you will need someone thinking about it full time. But that person for me is not a co-founder. It definitely isn't.
Okay, Aditi has a question.
Yeah. So, Ankur, as we all know, to survive the tough time, it could be anything. This time it is pandemic, it could be anything in the future. How a startup can prepare themselves so that they can, find any sort of pandemic. At least they can survive.
So, look, it's so there is only one way, Aditi, that people are able to survive a crisis. And that is not to react to it, but to prepare for it in advance. That's the only way that people survive. No one survives if they react to a crisis. They only survive if they are prepared for a crisis. Now, the question is, how can you prepare for a crisis such as this? You didn't even know that this was going to happen. So what's the preparation all about? But here's where the definition of preparation gets interesting. Preparation is not about you planning and you being very sure of what's going to happen and thus preparing for it. The preparation is in your head where you know that you are putting in everything as a discipline on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis that allows you to change direction when required. It's not the best plan that wins. Go back to December of 2019, like less than 6 months back. Every company, every smart individual, every super solid team had a plan for 2020. Everyone did. Like everyone did. And then March आया, bam, सबके plan खल्लास, खत्म. तुम कहीं से भी हो, तुम कहां के पढ़े हो, तुम कौन सी कंपनी में काम कर रहे हो, तुमने कौन से सॉफ्टवेयर में बनाया, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. It just collapsed. But who's going to make it happen? Who's going to survive? Not the one with the best plans, but the ones with the ability to change the direction whenever required. Now, what does changing the direction mean? Changing the direction means several things. Let's talk about financially. Changing the direction financially means you can't prepare for someone to know that COVID is going to happen. And because of that, I'm going to run out of money. But what you will prepare for instead is that every day I have to run a business that makes money. And I'm not going to make the business run because I need money. I make money and because of that, I run the business. So I'm not going to be the one saying, oh, abhi paise jala dete hain kyunki investor paise de denge. I'm going to say, I will make money today, and that is the reason why an investor will be interested in me. Because I run a healthy, profitable business, or I run a business that makes money on a cash basis. Even if it's maybe not profitable, but at least I don't lose cash. Anything like that. And that is just one simple example of financial discipline and planning. That I always have a reserve. That I always am planning for something. It's like how our mothers were. Like, कहाँ किसी भी दाल के डब्बे में, चीनी के डब्बे में, आटे के डब्बे में, कहीं ना कहीं, किधर ना किधर पैसे रखे होते थे. And it was unbelievable, right? Did they know something's going to happen? No. Most parents just saved that money for the longest time only to realize कि वो note अब चलता भी नहीं. But that was the mindset. The mindset was, I have to save for a time where shit can happen. And I am not going to say, oh, अगर कुछ हो जाएगा तो मुझे फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर बचाएगी, मुझे सरकार बचाएगी, मुझे बैंक बचाएगा. मैं अपने आप को पहले बचाऊंगा, और मैंने अगर आपको बचा लिया तो बाकी लोग मुझे बचाने के लिए डेफिनेटली तैयार होंगे. So that is the way that you would prepare for a pandemic or a crisis or anything, which is not to have the best plan, but just to have the ability for you to change direction whenever you want to or have to.
So that brings to the next question, which was by Gaurav Rana. And he's asking that how nearby will ensure a good business now to associate salons as they're more into the personal touch industry.
So that's a good question, Gaurav. And it's not just salons, it's anything and everything. Spas, high touch, restaurants, high touch. The waiters or the servers may not be touching you, but they're touching the food that you're eating. And salons the same way, spas the same way. Movie halls, are they ever going to be full? I don't know. Entertainment, public events, stadiums, music concerts, I don't know. Shopping malls, are they ever going to be the same that they were? I don't know. So there is a lot that nearby will and continues to suffer from because of what's happening. The way that we're thinking about this is exactly the answer that I was giving to Aditi, which is we know that our core business is now gone for a toss. To give you a sense, we're now doing sales that we used to do in February of 2011. So we've gone back 9 years. Like we literally have lost 9 years of every hard work. So what are we doing? We thankfully have money in the bank because we were running a profitable business. So it's not that we're going to shut down. And we're now thinking of what is it that we know better than most other people. And here's what we know. We know how to work with local businesses. So far, we were bringing them online, getting the customers to sell those discounts or deals and go and avail them. But if these businesses change, we can change as well. So one of the things that we have introduced is at-home services, whether it is pest control, beauty, even food delivery, all of that is going to change. It still has high touch, but you at least have the comfort that you're doing things at your home. We're investing significantly in content, which is, can I tell you what's happening around you? Because sooner than later, that world is going to start showing up. We are spending a lot on making these businesses ready for contactless services. How can a salon be prepared for contactless services? I went for a haircut, by the way, 2 weeks back to experience it. And it seems to be working. It seems like you're entering a nuclear reactor where people are literally wearing PPE suits and masks and all that. But it still worked. I got my haircut and no one touched me, or they just touched me through their gloves and their machines, all of which were sanitized. So there are ways that we're doing it. It's going to be hard. It's going to take time. But that is the liberty we have, which is we're not forced to do something because we are caught in a corner. We're doing things the way that we think we should be doing because it is what the future will be from now on.
Okay, and we have another question by Prakash, actually, that he has been running an edtech business since the last 5 years, and they were about to receive funding in Feb 2020, but they didn't get it. So how should their approach be to new investors now?
Is there a way that I can know why didn't they get it? Did the investor pull out? If you can share that. Or let me just assume and give you the two things, because then the back and forth could take time. So one is the investor pulled out because, you know what, shit happened and they're like, oh, don't want to invest. You're edtech, so that is somewhat surprising because edtech is booming. So why would they pull out? And the other explanation then is they themselves ran out of money. So it's not that they didn't want to give you the money, they didn't have the money themselves. And that's quite possible. If you understand the investing world of how it works, then you will realize why that is. Let's take both these examples. If they pulled out, it's not your fault. In fact, it's not your fault in either of the two. But if they pulled out, if you got a term sheet, which I hope you did, then feel free to take that term sheet to other investors and say, hey, we got this term sheet. These are the terms. And we couldn't complete this because guess what? The investor pulled out. But we're happy to give you the same terms, despite the fact that we're slightly better than what we were in Fed, assuming that's the case. So you essentially have something which acts as a trust generating document in other investors. If the investor ran out of money, then you should have a conversation with the investor and saying, is whatever you went through stable now? Maybe it isn't, or maybe it is. Maybe they went through a bad patch and now they may have recovered, in which case it's not a bad idea for you to reach out and ask them, hey, are you in a better spot now? And is there something that we can do to reinitiate the conversations? Maybe on different terms, maybe on favorable terms for you, but at least have a conversation. If they say no, things haven't changed, then go back to the first step, which is take the term sheet to other investors and just say, hey, our current investor that gave us this term sheet is not in a position to invest because they're going through their own pains. And we're ready to give you the chance to invest in our company on the same terms.
And Prakash did get back saying that yes, it was because of this COVID-19 situation that they pulled out. So yeah.
Use that. I hope you got a term sheet. And if you did, then please use that. Don't be ashamed, and don't definitely optimize for being nice.
So I really like this question, which is coming from Samriddhi actually, that she's asking that what do you think is the biggest shift in leadership mindset that is required in this time?
That's a good question. What's the name? What's the name of someone who asked this question?
Samriddhi Malhotra.
Samriddhi. Thanks for the question, Samriddhi. Here is my view on it. I think the biggest thing that is required, Samriddhi, right now, or let's start with what's changed, because then that will give us the reason of what's required to be changed. What's changed is all of us are working from our homes. What's changed is there's a lot of uncertainty in the air. What's changed is people are scared, and they're really scared. Even in the best companies possible, even in the most stable companies possible, people are scared. They're either scared of losing their jobs, they're scared of getting the virus, they're scared for their family, they're scared for the country, they're scared for people around them, whatever is it. But there is a lot of manifestation of this fear in different shapes and form of our lives. As a leader, the most important, I wouldn't say shift, but focus that needs to be brought in is to have this unbelievably strong layer of trust with your team. Trust that if they're working from home, they are not chilling and wasting their time. Trust that if they're working from home on their bed, they're not necessarily serious or professional about it. Trust that they want to be exactly the same person, professional, individual that they were before this hit them. Trust that everything that you do is going to be valuable to you and the organization. It's immensely important that you generate trust within all your team members. This is largely missing, unfortunately. It's missing from our culture. It's missing from our leadership in general. Because our genuine belief is कि वर्क फ्रॉम होम में कोई काम नहीं करता. सब लैपटॉप तो खोल के बैठे होते हैं, लेकिन सब गेम खेल रहे होते हैं, सब नेटफ्लिक्स देख रहे होते हैं, सब चैट कर रहे होते हैं, सब अपने फोन पे इंस्टाग्राम कर रहे होते हैं. So we tend to micromanage even more than we used to. Every hour we're checking, ये हो गया, ये हो गया, ये हो गया, क्या हुआ, दिखाओ, भेजो, कॉल पे आओ, जूम पे आ जाओ, इस पे आ जाओ. Like, it's just endless. It doesn't end because you become this devil where you don't even trust people. You don't trust your own team. You don't empathize. You don't empathize with what they're going through. You don't empathize with the fact that this uncertainty that you feel is being felt at their end as well. You don't empathize with the fact that this may be your team, your company, but for them it's their job. And they will not necessarily feel the same way for your company that you do. So the empathy that I have your back, that shit is not going to happen to you. Or even if in the worst case scenario, you have to make some tough decisions about laying off people, about asking for pay cuts. You will do it in a manner where you will take away their job, but you won't take away their respect. That is a very critical component. So I'd say that the amplification of trust and empathy in leadership is what is necessary right now. It's not a mindset shift because everyone knows of this. These two words are not new words, then you're not hearing them for the first time, but it's shocking how many people give up on trust and empathy when there is a crisis, when they should be doubling down on that. When people want you to be trusting, when they want you to be empathetic, is when you become an asshole. When you're like, I don't trust you. I don't trust you to be working. I don't trust you to be anything else. I'm not going to be empathetic. You have to do this job because guess what? You won't find a job anywhere else. So you don't want to do it? Go to hell. I don't care. You have to do it. You have to work 7 days a week. You have to work 14 hours a day. They become that person as if they just take over a different skin and put on a different facade. So trust and empathy for me is the amplification of what is required in leadership during a crisis.
Right. Mayank has a question for you, actually. Mayank is the co-founder of EngineerBabu and the CEO at Blue Rung. So his question is that what do we as founders should focus on top priority? What should we be looking out on a daily basis,
And that's a good question, Mayank. I'd say only one thing. Just take care of your team. Just take care of your team. Trust me at this point. Now, here is what I learned in life and the hard way. In good times, it's very easy to establish trust because those are good times, right? Good times. So EngineerBabu is like great working environment, remote working, get to work on cool projects, autonomous, lovely founders, good work environment, right? All the nice things, all the happy things. But the truth is, trust does not get built during good times. Trust is exhibited during good times, but trust only gets built during a crisis. Trust is only built during a crisis. When people didn't expect you to show up and you showed up, that is when people trust you. When people didn't expect you to support them and you supported them, that is when people trust you. When people didn't expect you to be there to listen to them and you did listen to them, that's when they trust you. So trust is immensely powerful to build during a crisis. And from that perspective, it is the only thing that matters right now, which is just spend time with your team and garner their trust. If you were to do a good job of that right now, you will never ever need to be a leader when things go back. You will literally have leaders all across the floor, each one of them capable, each one of them very smart to say, I am just going to take the ownership of whatever is required and get it done myself.
So we have NJ, who is the the founder of Me Stay, which is India's largest hourly hotel booking platform. And his question is that we don't see it doing well immediately. We are currently building content to build trust and educate about hourly hotel bookings. So what else can we do right now to sustain in it?
I don't think you can do anything to sustain it right now. You will need to plan for a zero revenue period and make sure that you have runway to cross over that. That's the only thing that you can do. Reduce your cost to as low a possible number you can. Plan for months of zero revenue and plot that on an Excel sheet to make sure that you have runway beyond that period. That's the only thing. It's survival. It's just survival. There's nothing really else unless you've built something that can be used in some other industry. And I'd love you to react to that if you can. If you've built something, like yesterday, I was speaking to an entrepreneur based out of Hyderabad who runs an e-commerce company of fresh meat. And they used to deliver and run fresh meat supply chain across Hyderabad. And clearly his business has been hit. But he has 4 delivery hubs in Hyderabad. He has a delivery network. And I asked him, could you deliver something else? Could you deliver essentials right now? Grocery, medicine. Because you have the fleet. You have the infrastructure. So could you do that? Could you supply meat to branded or reputable e-commerce companies such as, say, Licious? Because people are likelier to trust Licious with their meat than maybe you. And those are just hacks of figuring out what they could be doing with what they have done. But if there isn't any, and that's understandable if there isn't any, then you just have to optimize for a period of zero revenue and make sure that your runway covers the cost for that period.
So Kartikeya has a message and a question. So he said that Ankur, I seriously admire you quite so much and appreciate all your insightful deliverables, which you share through various short videos over LinkedIn. And he's also a big fan. So his question was that, how do you evaluate any condition or your process towards decision making? Because entrepreneurs sometimes have to take crucial decisions which are not just restricted to themselves but also affect others involved. So how do you evaluate any condition then?
How do you evaluate a decision that you have to make?
Yes.
Okay. Here's my mental model. Kartikeya, did you mention what is the name?
Yeah.
Here's my mental model, Kartikeya. What I always do is, when I'm split between taking two decisions, I will always know which is the decision that I really want to take. ये हम सबको पता होता है. We may not admit to it, but we always know which is the one decision that we want to take. So I ask myself, what's the worst thing that can happen if I do take this decision? Not the probability of it happening, what's the actual worst case that can happen if I were to take this decision? And when I imagine that worst case, I ask the next question, which is the harder question to answer. And that is, if this worst case were to happen, will I be okay with it? Will I be okay with it financially, emotionally, socially, mentally, physically, psychologically? Will I be okay with it? And the way to answer this question is to vividly imagine the worst case scenario happening in front of you. It's not something that you think and you write. You literally close your eyes and you'll say, what's the worst case? And maybe the worst case is that my startup's going to shut down. And you go to the point where you are shutting down the startup. You go to the point where you are addressing your entire company and you're telling them, we've run out of money. And all of us don't have a job starting tomorrow. And you'll feel shitty and bad about it, but that's what you'll have to do. And then you will get done with that and go back and you'll tell your parents that you had to shut down your startup. And then your friends. And then you'll be at an evening dinner and someone will be like, hey, what's up, Kartikeya? How's your startup coming along? And you'll be like, I had to shut it down. And when you go through that vividly, you ask yourself, am I going to be okay? Is it okay? Emotionally, physically, socially, financially, whatever way, am I going to be okay? And only when, this is my mental model, only when I feel zero doubt that I will be okay with even the worst case scenario happening, I take the decision. Mind you, this process does not guarantee whether a decision is right or wrong. This process just prepares you for what is the worst case scenario. There is no one on earth that can tell you whether your decision is right or wrong. You will have to take the decision to find out. But most people are scared of making the decision not because they don't know how to make the decision, it's because they're scared of what will happen when they make the decision. And if you were to mentally have that conversation with yourself that this is what is going to happen when I take the decision and the worst case thing happens, you will be prepared for anything in between.
I think that's very sound advice. I'm sure even Aditya has something to share over it.
So I also have something to ask you. No, so most we being an entrepreneur, we know most of the time we felt emotional about some certain situations, and most of the time we act random. And the planning is the last thing that we learn to do. Like let's plan and then act. So do you think is it good to take some decisions emotionally at times? Because it happens, like decision is being taken, now you have to deal with it, now you feel bad afterwards. So how to deal with this? I mean, how right it is, because it's really not possible to change a person in short span of time.
Yeah. Now, one thing I think Aditi is, ये तो clear है, and you will know this better than most people. कोई भी माँ के पेट से entrepreneur बन के नहीं आता.
True.
So no one can be taught how to become a founder. No one can be taught how to become an entrepreneur. And it doesn't matter how many videos you watch, how many books you read, how many people you listen to, how many mentors you have. You are going to make your own mistakes. You are going to learn from those. You are going to feel really shitty about yourself. You are going to feel like मैं ही सबसे बेवकूफ इंसान हूँ, मुझे ही ज्यादा कुछ समझ नहीं आता है, बाकी सब लोग तो बहुत सॉर्टेड हैं, बाकी सब लोग को देखो इतना अच्छा कर रहे हैं, मुझ में ही कुछ गलत होगा, मैं ही कहीं गलत कर रही हूँ, whatever the case is. And I think the biggest thing that I have realized is we are constantly fighting against the expectations we have from ourselves and what the world has imposed on us. So I have this belief that कोई भी startup failure नहीं होता, वो सिर्फ fail होता है लोगों की expectations पे खरे उतरने. That's the only failure. So you would say, you know what, I want EngineerBabu to become a $1 billion company. And maybe you'll go and raise money around that. Maybe you will sell that dream to others. Maybe you'll sell that dream to yourself. And let's say tomorrow EngineerBabu ends up being a $600 million company, which is bloody brilliant. I guarantee you, you will be sad. Because you'll be like, I wanted this to be a $1 billion company. And that is where we completely mess up. So my way of dealing with this is I don't attach my actions to any expectations. I attach my actions to my guidance and my inputs of what got me to that action. तो मैं कभी भी अपने आप को ये नहीं बोलूंगा कि इस चीज को करने से मुझे यहाँ पहुंचना है. मैं अपने आप को ये बोलता हूँ कि ये चीज मैं इसलिए कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि मुझे ये चीजों ने बताया है कि मुझे ये चीज करनी चाहिए. And then I don't know whether this will work out or not. I don't know whether this will be right or wrong. And yes, I will feel bad because we are all human. But I do realize that that feeling is a lot better than the feeling of having failed at the expectations. Because then this feeling is like, hey, I took a decision, didn't work out. Shit, man, I wish it worked out. Like, काश वो hire अच्छा हो गया होता, काश वो office चल गया होता, काश ये new business चल गया होता, whatever the case is. But that's still a lot better than saying, shit man, हम वो कर ही नहीं पाए, हम वहां पहुंच ही नहीं पाए, हम ये सब हमसे हो ही नहीं पाया. It's almost like attaching your identity to something that you don't even have a way of controlling or articulating. So I, at least over the years, have realized that that is the trap we all fall in. And this is not just an entrepreneur. This is anyone. We all just fixate ourselves on the goals that we think are what we should learn or get to, but there was no basis of those goals in the first place.
Agreed.
Okay. Thank you. So Shubham has a question, that how are the investors and VCs thinking and operating in these times? Like, is it a good time to go out and raise funds? How's the funding going on right now?
So it's actually a really good time for investors, because investors are getting to see very few businesses, because ज़्यादा businesses शुरू ही नहीं हो रहे. They're getting to hear conversations around profitability, which is finally a conversation, and they're getting very attractive valuations because everything is coming at a lower price. So investors के लिए तो golden period है. They are loving it. They are doing rounds which are lesser valuation. They're getting very smart people at much lesser money. They're getting to see quality businesses, so on. If you're an entrepreneur, it will be a hard time raising money, because it's very hard to convince someone early on that you have a business that can be immensely profitable and very big. During this time, it is a really hard thing to expect or to even prove. So only businesses that are either second time founders who have some sort of a pedigree attached to them or some sort of a reputation attached to them, or people who have been working on their startups for a while, have a proven model and now are ready to raise money, or which are in extremely high growth industries and have a good market fit already established. Those are the ones that are being able to raise money easily. Most others, not so much.
And the next question that we have, that are investors looking at more of online or offline mode of businesses to invest in?
It's across both, um, especially in India. It's across both. People are realizing that ऑनलाइन बहुत हो गया, अब हमें कुछ एक्चुअल धंधे भी देखने चाहिए. So from that perspective, they are more than happy to look at either of the two businesses.
And Abhilash has a question that most of the startups are industry dependent in some or the other way. So considering a marble granite process unit is dependent in real estate somewhere, how someone should diversify the business? What should be the approach?
So, and this is a good question because it answers the interdependencies of a B2B company, and a B2B company always suffers from the fact that the core business itself, if it's suffering, then it becomes really hard for the main business to take off, or the secondary business to take off. Let's pick this example. If you are in the marble granite industry and you're clearly seeing the real estate space go through a really bad time, which is the case right now, what could be ways of diversifying? I know nothing about the marble granite industry, so whatever I'm going to say is absolutely dumb and foolish. Please do not take it seriously. I feel, one, instead of looking at the new real estate industry or new supply in the real estate industry, one could look at the existing supply in the real estate industry. There will be a lot of people who will want their homes to be reoriented, refurbished, renovated. That constantly keeps happening. And that is a great space to be in, which means not tying up with real estate developers, but instead tying up with architects and interior designers who will go about making those recommendations, making a consumer brand that could possibly be used as an introduction to pull people towards them, thinking of exports, thinking of how you could maybe, and I'm just thinking aloud right now, you could maybe come up with something which is around the lines of virus proofing the granite or the marble flooring that we have at our houses, because right now we don't know whether they are virus proof or not. We think they are, but who's to say that they're not? So how do you get about doing that? Or if there is any cheaper version of the business that you are currently running in terms of marble or granite, can you try and create a mass brand that could again be catering to the existing real estate supply, but not necessarily in premium apartments and bungalows, but even in MIGs or perhaps even HIGs where you could get it. Few ideas. I don't know how many of them are feasible, if at all, but those are the ones that came to my mind.
Right. Thank you, Ankur. Aditi, do you have any questions, any more?
Yeah, I mean, just the summarizing. everyone is talking about the new normal is going to be there for in social life, for in personal life. I would just like to ask, what is going to be the new normal for the startups?
The new normal for startups, Aditi, I think will be that we will be able to source talent from across the world. We will not be physically meeting each other anymore. We will be held accountable for making money very early on in our startup journey, profitable businesses to be made and run, and we will rely a lot more on technology than we used to in the past, because that's the only way that you run such a startup. So, more of global talent being accessible, more of profitable businesses to be made, and a lot more of just technology driven businesses than manual, hard labor, offline businesses.
Thank you, Ankur. Thanks for taking out time for all of us. It's really amazing to have you for this session, and I guess people have enjoyed it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Akanksha. Thank you, Aditi. This was wonderful. Thanks for organizing this. All the best to everyone. Stay safe, and I shall see you all very soon.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Hello. Hello everyone. So thanks for attending all of our sessions that we have conducted over the past 2 months, and hopefully we are coming again with our next series of sessions after a month or so. I hope you enjoyed. And for all the sessions that we have done in the past, and for this one, you can go to Engineer Babu's YouTube channel and subscribe over there, and you can watch them again and again for all the insightful learnings and knowledges that these people share. So stay tuned with the social media channels of Engineer Babu, Aditi, and Mayank, and our people. So you'll be notified for all the upcoming events and such sessions in future. Thanks everyone. And please drop your feedbacks as well on our social media as well as here on Air Meets. Thank you.